Well, what do we have here? We have the new 23 Hunter 350 from Royal Enfield. Stick around. So here it is, the 2023 Royal Enfield super sharp looking bike, Hunter 350. What is it? Well, it's like their classic 350, single cylinder, 350 cc, actually 349 cc's. It's making 20 horsepower. It weighs 399 pounds. It is what it is. They're not pretending to be anything they're not. It's just a classic looking motorcycle that is cheap. $3,999 for a brand new motorcycle with a warranty. So I have never ridden one of these before, and I am very interested to see how it performs. And I know performance is a bad word to use when you're dealing with something that makes 20 horsepower, but I want to see how it performs all around for being a relatively inexpensive motorcycle. And they have a lot of different variations on this bike with different paint schemes. You know, there's a red one here, there's a silver one right there, there's even another paint scheme on that one, and yet another one here. So they're a pretty cool looking bike. Got some nice street tires on it as well. I'm interested just to see how it feels. I've ridden a few of their classic 350s and I did like them, but there's just something raw about these. You know, we're talking single cylinder, oil, air cooled bikes. That's all. That's it. And it's cheap, $4,000. I mean, you can't even buy stuff for $4,000 anymore, brand new. You're hard pressed to find a good motorcycle that's used for $4,000. So, you know, I'll be interested to see. These do have passenger pegs on them. This one has a little bit of a pillion backrest seat, but the other ones also come with, you know, some grab handles for the back passenger and single seats. There's a few different configurations. It does have a single gauge display with an MFA in the middle, but it really doesn't give you much. It gives you fuel, time. These actually have a gear indicator on them, which is kind of great, and a trip meter. But that's about it. And the classic 350s have the same controls. They're a little different than the other bikes, a little bit more modern. So kind of fun. Let's check it out. Nothing to it. This guy just started riding bikes today. This is his first day. There he goes. Oh my word. All right. Well, besides for that introduction, here we are on the Hunter 350. And I asked the sales lady, rep lady, I said, are you hunting or are you the hunter? And she laughed at me and said, you're the hunter. So you can hunt as long as it's not going really fast, right? So 350 cc's, a very basic motorcycle, getting you in under $4,000. I mean, come on now, what do you want? Brand new motorcycle. I think we paid $3,500 for my son's 10-year-old CRF. So, I mean, it's like, what do you want, you know? But the fit and finish of the bike is very nice for the price point. It's actually quite nice. And the reliability standards of these bikes have been gaining a lot of momentum. They're finding a niche market in the modern classic world, if you will, where people want to ride, but they don't have a ton of money. So Royal Enfield builds a lot of motorcycles, the largest manufacturer in the world of motorcycles, and they also They also are the oldest in continuous production manufacturer of motorcycles, so pretty awesome. Anywho, here we are on the Hunter 350. Let's talk a little bit about this one. It has a little bit of a bug deflector on it. The other one did not, I noticed. That's an accessory. Riding position on this is very traditional. My pegs are right underneath me, and I'm sitting upright. Not really stretched out too much. I am 6'4", 230 pounds. That makes me a little bit large for this bike, in my humble opinion, but I'm not terribly cramped. I'm not terribly cramped. This bike, the way that it's designed with the ground clearance and the weight distribution, feels very light to maneuver. It's very, very light. It almost feels like a scooter. It's definitely not a Grom, right? But it's a motorcycle, but it's not huge. So I kind of like that. You could use this bike very easily as your first motorcycle, or if you're in an area where there's not a lot of highway riding, I think you'd be well suited on this bike as well, because it's not really set up for, you know, getting out on the highway and doing 100 miles an hour. But I mean, like I said, who needs that, right? If you're into motorcycling, you like the back roads, this bike would be just fine for that. The price point on it is cheap. I mean, I'm just gonna say it is cheap. So you're not gonna get everything you would get with a $20,000, $15,000 motorcycle, but they're not skimping on stuff. I mean, like I said, the fit and finish of the bike is nice. You have a digital display, which is kind of nice. Multifunction display. It's a single cylinder 350, so it's not, you know, it's not gonna set the world on fire with power, but it's also not terrible. It does not have a tachometer on it, so I don't really know what it's pulling for RPMs, but I can kind of gauge. Down low, this bike isn't terrible for torque. It has the thumper feel that you would get with a single cylinder. I've had the privilege of riding all of the models that they have, and I post those channels. I'll post them up here on the channel, so hopefully you can see them. But really, when you think about it, the original dual sport bikes that came out were in this class. You know, they were 250, 350, 450, and then of course you had your 650, like your XR 650s and your KLRs and stuff. As far as power difference though, I think they're pretty close. I mean, maybe a little bit more snap. I know I had an XR 650R. That thing was a rocket ship, but it felt like you were riding a chainsaw. So this bike doesn't have that feeling. This bike feels like a motorcycle. The suspension on it is not overly soft, so it has a little bit of a sporty feel to it. I can feel this road is pretty rough, actually. So, you know, hitting these bumps here, I'm not like getting a chiropractic adjustment. It's not like super smooth as far as some other bikes go, but I think it's a good blend for road. But it tends to me, it seems to lean a little bit more to the sporty feel. Now, I have a affinity for dual sport bikes. I just really, really like them a lot. So I kind of compare some of my motorcycle rides to different dual sports out on the market. And this bike has that feel like a dual sport, but it handles like a street bike. So it's got like the torque curve that you'd expect from a dual sport, but then you can feel it handle. It's handling more street manners, and it's not terrible. Whoa. Hear the engine. It's got a pretty good tone to it. Again, like kind of like a thumper. I like the noise. I like it. Really smooth and linear on the throttle though. It's not, there's no surprises. It's not really super fast, but it's easy to manage for sure. Out of all of the smaller single bore bikes that I've ridden from Enfield, this one seems like it's tuned a little differently. It actually does seem to have a little bit more grunt on the low end. So bogging it down and just coming into it, it actually doesn't feel too bad. It's not, again, it's not anything to write home about as far as power goes, but it's not bad, not bad. I'm a big fan, again, like I said, of the dual sport bikes, mainly because I like the upright riding position, and I really get that with this bike. I'm right over the pegs, sitting straight up, not hunched over. Very, very comfortable. Easy to ride. This guy right here is no idea what he's doing. Come on, bud. Ah, the ocean, Atlantic. Welcome to New Hampshire, bud. Yes, sir. So nice out today. So if you're looking for a nice bike that's streetable, easy to get around with, I like this bike. I think this is an all-around good bike. You're getting what you pay for though, and you're paying you're paying less for a new bike than you are for a used bike at this stage of the game. So again, I wouldn't go into this thinking, oh my goodness, I'm buying like a street rocket or something with a lot of power. This bike is what it is. It's cheap transportation, and it's even better than just cheap transportation because there's a little flair that Royal Enfield gives you with it. A little bit of decals, like the paint jobs on these are pretty cool looking. It's comfortable to ride. It's not like you're riding on a buckboard. There's a reason why they're the #1 manufacturer of motorcycles as far as units go, because they're cheap and reliable, and there's not a lot on these to break. Everything's manual. You know, you got a clutch cable, throttle cable. Everything is old school technology, which is good because that leads to easier repairs on the road. So this corner is pretty good. I'll try to get around this guy. So not terrible going into the corner. It kind of tried to wash a little out when I dove it down. I don't know. The suspension on the front of this is pretty good. It's not spongy, but I also didn't use any brakes going into the corner, so I wouldn't have anticipated it to be. Not bad though. The motor is well balanced. It's not real vibey, if you will, on the handlebars. You don't get a lot of vibration. Very comfortable on that aspect. And some of the thumpers really do vibrate a lot. So you'll be on those and you're like, what is happening? Again, you get the chainsaw effect. I have not experienced that on this bike. My motor's just got a nice little purr to it. I like it. again, I would put this in one of the categories with a modern classic type motorcycle, where you've got a classic style motorcycle that is modernly reliable. So you've got modern components. You're not sacrificing. So the old, old bikes and stuff, you'd know where they were because you could see the trail of oil. You always had to have a chase car with you or somebody to know where you're going that can pick you up with a truck. And these bikes, again, are not designed for that. These bikes are designed to just go. Drive it. Drive a MacGyver. And you get the style of the old bike with kind of the feel and nostalgia, which is kind of fun. And you don't get that with a brand new Rice Rocket or something else. And not like those bikes don't have their place, but this is just a totally different experience. So I think I would wrap up my review like this. If you were in the market for a new bike and you were on a budget but you still wanted something that was going to work, then this is a great option to consider. I would also add, like, if you're shorter in stature, this is a good bike. I mean, I would put this right up against a Honda Rebel, except it's like half the price. And as far as drivability goes on it too, if you're inexperienced and you're new, this is an excellent platform to really hone your skills in, because you're not going to get into trouble, if you grab a little extra throttle. This is only a 5-speed, so it's not going to go 100 miles an hour. It's just a nice platform with a lot of solid features on it, and it's comfortable to ride. And it even has a pillion seat, so you can bring a passenger with you and cruise down to the Hamptons, darling, or somewhere. So anyways, those are my thoughts on this bike. It's a pretty solid bike for the price. It's definitely worth the money. And yeah, pretty fun bike indeed. Let me know your thoughts on it. If you have one of these, I'd love to hear your experiences of riding. Have you had any maintenance or breakage issues on the bike? I'd be curious to know the reliability aspect from a long-term owner perspective. Besides for that, shoot me a comment down below and let me know if you like the video. And also don't forget to hit the like button. We really appreciate that. It helps keep the channel going. And as always, ride safe.